Welcome, good morning, Subhankrit. I can settle down a bit, we can start. And I sent you an email yesterday in the evening indicating the fact that today's session will be on placenta. Placenta is an organ. Of course, it is extra embryonic. It is not present within the embryo, it is outside. And when I say outside, it is extra embryonic. And therefore, you have to be accustomed with this terminology right now. What is a chorion? You know, you have heard it already earlier, and I'm just defining one more time. It is formed by extraembryonic mesoderm, and you have no problem understanding what is extraembryonic mesoderm. It is coming from the hypoblast, and then it is divided into two parts, and one part is going towards the placenta. And that is, I'm talking about the extraembryonic mesoderm. And the two layers of trophoblast, syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast. These are very important. Primarily, it is anchoring the embryo at the initial stage. If you think about the embryo, the implantation, it is not possible unless the trophoblast is going towards the endometrium. It is like a finger-like projection. Sometimes we call it as a villi, V-I-L-L-I, villi. Like, you know, it's one villus, another villus, and two villi. So these are going towards the endometrium. So that is basically all together we call, and some membranes here and there we call is the chorion. So it is the embryonic part which is responsible for the formation of the placenta. Placenta has two parts. I'm coming to that in a minute so that your concept is absolutely clear. There is no word that Dr. Paul, I understood a little bit. A little bit of embryology will not work. You have to understand wholeheartedly. The story should be complete, and it is full of concepts. One of the concepts is understanding the placenta, and you have many misconceptions by now which we can straighten up today. Placenta is an organ, as I said, is approximately 600 to 700 gram matured one, little less than 1 kilogram. Purpose is primarily it is a site for nutrition. Nutrition comes from the mother, and then it goes to the fetus. And the important part also is the oxygen, the gas exchange between mother and the fetus. It has two parts. One is the maternal part and another one is the fetal part. I'm referring to previous slide is the fetal part, the chorion. So if you think about this is the placenta, one part is coming from the fetus, one part, the opposite part is coming from the mother. It has two parts, fetal part and the maternal part. What I was referring to you earlier in terms of the trophoblast, etc., it is coming from the fetus or the chorion. Chorion plays a major role in the fetal part of the placenta. So what I did, I made a little bit of cartoon which will help you to understand the detailing of that, and then we'll see the picture from the book. You will not understand the picture from the book unless that cartoon is very clear to you. Here I put the cartoon in a way that the baby is there, the embryo is there, it's already implanted, and mother is calling the baby that please come to me. So they're raising the hand, which is the trophoblast, going to mother to a certain extent, then mother will say stop, don't come so close to me. There's a reason. There is a placental barrier where the mother doesn't want to get in contact with the baby. We call placental barrier. It's very important. Think about it. I gave you an example earlier that when you go for a burger, you pay 5 riyal. That for the burger, maybe chicken or whatever you want to use that, 5 riyal. That's good. But that is associated with some bacteria. You pay also for the bacteria here and there. You cannot avoid it. I'm touching here full of bacteria, virus is there. So now when mother is taking that burger, that bacteria and virus should not go to the baby right away. So there should be a barrier which will help. That is the placenta is coming up. So mother will say to the baby that, come to me, but not to that close. You have to come to me because my nutrition is coming through the uterine artery, and you have to be very close to me. And then develop your own arteries, and then to the exchange that the nutrition and the gas will come to the umbilical cord, we call, or maybe the fetal part of the placenta. So you need a cartoon over here. Now, this I put it over here, but if you are opening the computer, it's much better for you to think about this way. What I have done, here is the baby, but think about it, this is not so scientific in that sense, but it makes you understand that what I'm trying to do over here. Now you can see the baby is here, baby's so-called hand is going towards the mother. You can see the 5 fingers over there. These are villi. Villi of the trophoblast is going towards the endometrium, and the mother endometrium is this part. Together is the placenta. The whole circle over here is the placenta. Is that clear? One is the maternal part, one is the chorion or the fetal part. Now, what's happening over here? You can see some dotted line. These are the extraembryonic mesoderm. It's coming along with that. I wrote it over here, extraembryonic mesoderm. These are the trophoblasts, syncytial trophoblasts, cytotrophoblasts. Then at one point, the blood vessels, it's going very close to the blood vessel. Which blood vessel over here? It will be the uterine artery or the uterine vein, because these are present inside the endometrium. Is the maternal part. So the maternal part, think about this one, and I put a little heart over here. This is the maternal heart. So anything is coming out of the heart, we call artery. Isn't it? Anything comes out of the heart, we call artery, carrying oxygenated blood. So mother is supplying nutrition and oxygen towards the baby, and we call it uterine artery. But it stops over here, and then it supplies very close to the baby, and baby takes it to the perfusion. It comes over here, and there is another structure is there we call umbilical vein. Now here you have the international problem. The students do not understand. Why we call vein? Because it is going towards the heart of the baby. That's what the cartoon is all about. Anything going towards the heart, we call vein, but it will be carrying oxygenated blood. That's why I put it as a red color, and the nutrition. I'll spend a little time one more time over here. Little time I'll be spending more to make you understand. The two terminologies people use over here. One is the uterine artery. It has to be an artery because it is coming out of the mother's heart. Then you have the aorta, then iliac artery, etc. And one of the branches over here is called the uterine artery. It's carrying the nutrition and oxygen. It's coming towards the baby. Remember the fact mother's blood does not come to the baby at all. It's a wrong concept for many of you. There is no way the mother's blood is coming towards the baby. Not towards the baby, inside the baby. There is no connection. The connection, as I said, is stopped over there. Mother says, stop it over there. But through the perfusion, it comes to another artery, vein, we call is the umbilical vein, but it carries the oxygenated blood, which they receive it from the mother. Is that okay? Why I call it is the umbilical vein? Because it's going towards the heart. You see, I have a nice diagram of the heart of the baby. Is that okay? So this is the umbilical vein. So I'll be asking in the exam that umbilical vein carries what kind of blood, you would say oxygenated blood. And this oxygen coming from where? From the mother and from the from the uterine artery. From the uterine artery. So uterine artery is supplying, so it is all red. It's coming here also is red, but we call umbilical vein. The simple reason is that it is going towards the heart of the baby, towards the heart of the baby. Then the baby enjoys this nutrition and oxygen, and then it will be metabolized. So now carbon dioxide is produced. So that will go through the umbilical artery. Why we call umbilical artery over here? Because it's coming out of the heart. Can you see it? It's coming out of the heart and is going towards the mother, and then it will be going to the umbilical vein. The uterine vein. Uterine vein. Vein is always carrying deoxygenated blood. Normally, you and I, we have very deoxygenated blood. But for the fetus, it's just the reverse. The reason is because one is going towards the heart, we have to call it a vein. And the one which is coming out of the heart, we have to call it as umbilical artery. But this is coming out. Now, this is umbilical artery, but carrying the deoxygenated blood. And the exchange is happening over here. But remember the fact, mother will always say to the baby, stop at certain point. Don't come so close to me. My blood should not come to you. Only my nutrition and oxygen should come to you, but not the entire blood. The blood doesn't mix. And there is a reason of that. When I say that you pay 5 real for your burger and the bacteria comes, so it stops over there, over here. Then the placental barrier will not allow the bacteria to come to the baby, which is a good thing. And what are the components? There are 4 components of the placental barrier, which I'm going to explain to you over the time. So this is just a diagrammatic representation for you to make you understand what is the placenta. So let's do it one more time. A placenta is a structure where the fetal and the maternal part takes place. The fetal part is the chorion, the maternal part is the endometrium. Together we call is the placenta, where the exchange is happening. What are the exchanges happening? Nutrition and the gas exchange. Why do we need placenta? Because for the protection of the baby. Remember one more time, please do not think other way around, and I'm emphasizing 10 times that the maternal blood does not go to the baby. You can see only it comes over here, but for exchange only. It stops. There is a barrier there. There is a barrier. If I ask some of the students like year 2 to come right now, I will say, okay, stay outside the auditorium. From the auditorium to this place, there is a barrier there. So they are not coming directly to it. They can exchange. They may have something, a nice gift for Dr. Paul. I said, Dr. Paul, we have a gift. I said, that's fine. Give it to somebody and he will bring it to me. But you stay outside. So I still get the gift from the year 2 student. I know year 1 students will not give me anything. They're angry with me all the time. But what I'm trying to say, there is a barrier that is produced over here. So that barrier is needed because that, and again, the year 2 students, if they come over here, then it will be a mess. We don't have the sitting arrangements and all kind of things. So they should stay outside. So the maternal blood is outside, fetal blood is over here, and the exchange is happening between these 2 walls. That's called the placental barrier. We need that. Remember, the placenta takes almost 8 to 10 weeks to develop. So therefore, you can understand why from 3rd week to 8 weeks we call critical period, because there is no protection for the baby, by all means. So therefore, teratogens can affect the organogenesis. So that's what it is. Why the 3rd week to 8 weeks is very critical for the mother, pregnant mother that we referred to earlier. Okay, fine. Now, couple of terminologies that we have to say over here. What you see in this one is the trophoblast and the extra-embryonic mesoderm. Okay, the trophoblast you see over here, the syncytial trophoblast and cytotrophoblast, and you will see maybe there's another diagram. I don't see over here, but some if you have only syncytial trophoblast and the cytotrophoblast, we call it the primary villi. If you have some extra-embryonic mesoderm go inside, we call secondary villi. If there are some blood vessels are originating from here, then we call tertiary villi. So the finger-like projection is the villi. Initially, it will be cytotrophoblast, syncytial trophoblast, then some extra-embryonic mesoderm come, secondary villi, but then there will be some blood vessels will be coming. Either it will be umbilical vein or umbilical artery. We call tertiary villi. Primary, secondary, tertiary. Primary syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, secondary syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, and extra-embryonic mesoderm. And tertiary is the everything plus the blood vessels. Why the blood vessels we needed? Because of the umbilical artery and the umbilical vein, the previous one. We need the blood vessels inside. And these blood vessels are responsible. You can see the blood vessels are coming. Blood vessels are coming over there, and they are not mixing with the maternal blood. There is a gap over there, and that gap is called the placental barrier. So let's do it again. Secondary and tertiary villi. Primary villi is the cytotrophoblast, finger-like process, cyto and the syncytial both will be there. Secondary villi, primary villi plus mesenchymal. Mesenchymal core means mesoderm, extra-embryonic mesoderm. Tertiary villi, capillaries in the mesenchymal core. So if the capillary is forming inside, we call the tertiary villi. So now let's see that. You can see this is the primary villi, secondary villi, because mesenchymal core is there, and cytotrophoblast, syncytial, this is cytotrophoblast, syncytial trophoblast, plus the mesenchymal core is the secondary villi over here. The secondary villi will quickly, some of the blood vessels will be forming, and these blood vessels are coming from the maternal one. Okay, this is the baby over here. Now some blood vessels will be forming over here. You can see blood vessels are over here, blood vessels are over here now. You can see the blood vessels are forming within the mesenchymal core. This is the tertiary villi. Because you have syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, plus extra-embryonic mesoderm, plus the blood vessels. But if you look at carefully, this blood vessel is not mixing with this blood vessel. This is the maternal one. Are you clear with this? Maternal blood is not mixing with this. There is a gap between this. So this gap is called the placental barrier. And how the barrier is formed? By 4 layers. Let's do it. So it will be endothelium of the blood vessels from the maternal side. Then syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, mesenchymal core, 5 layers you can think about, and endothelium of the blood vessels in the fetal side. There are 4 or 5 layers present in between. And the maternal blood does not cross that. Only crossing thing is the nutrition and the gas, which is oxygen or carbon dioxide. I do it one more time. What you see in this tertiary villi, this is the baby. The blood vessels are forming within the mesenchymal core, so it is a tertiary villi. It has a syncytial trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, and now it's projecting towards the mother of the endometrium, but it is not touching the blood from the mother. You can see if the mother's blood is there in between the space, but there are 4 or 5 layers inside, separating maternal blood to the fetal blood. And the 5 layers are endothelium of the blood vessels of the mother. Endothelium means the inner layer of the blood vessels, either uterine artery or uterine vein. Then then you have the syncytial trophoblast, then cytotrophoblast, then mesenchymal core, and the endothelium of the blood vessels of the fetal side. Let's do one at a time. Mother is taking oxygen. You take a deep respiration, that oxygen has to come to the baby. How the oxygen is passing through? It will come to the uterine artery, cross the endothelium of the uterine artery, then it will cross the syncytial trophoblast, it will cross the cytotrophoblast, it will cross the extraembryonic mesoderm or mesenchymal core, then it will cross the endothelium of the umbilical vein. Then it will go to the umbilical vein, go to the fetus. Fetus is enjoying that oxygen and then makes carbon dioxide. Let's do other way around now. How the carbon dioxide is going back to the mother. Baby is not respiration. Baby is not having respiration. But through the umbilical artery, it will discharge carbon dioxide to mother. And mother will take the deep breath and the carbon dioxide will come out. So let's do the carbon dioxide from the fetus. Umbilical endothelium of the umbilical artery, cross that, then it will go to the mesenchymal core or the extraembryonic mesoderm. It will go to the cytotrophoblast, then syncytial trophoblast, then endothelium of the uterine vein. Are you with me? We need one more time. One more time. Okay. So let's do one more time how the things are happening from mother to the baby. And then I'll say one more time from, and it's not a rocket science, you have to think about it, that what I'm saying, and then some pictures are there. And then another thing I'm going to say from fetus to the mother, how things are okay. So I talked about last time oxygen. This time I talk about ice cream. Mother takes ice cream, or say some nice glucose, or maybe some fat or whatever. Mother is interested to take ice cream. How that ice cream is going towards the baby. Ice cream means, lots of sugar is there. So let's see the sugar or carbohydrate. That's part of the nutrition. Mother has taken the carbohydrate. This carbohydrate will go to the uterine artery. Remember uterine artery? Uterine artery, then it will cross the endothelium of the uterine artery. It will go to the syncytial trophoblast, then cross cytotrophoblast. It will cross the extraembryonic mesoderm or mesenchyme. Then it will go to the endothelium of the umbilical vein. Then it will go to the fetus, and fetus will be jumping. Oh my God, mom, thank you very much. I got ice cream from you. Fetus is jumping, so it will be metabolized, and some carbon dioxide or metabolites of carbohydrate. It's also carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide now will go from fetus to mother. How it is going? It will go to it will cross endothelium of the umbilical artery. It is going outside from the heart, umbilical artery, but carrying deoxygenated blood or the carbon dioxide. Then it will cross the extraembryonic mesoderm, then cytotrophoblast, then syncytial trophoblast, and then finally it will reach the endothelium of the uterine vein. Do by yourself again and again to understand that is called the placental barrier. We need the barrier so that the maternal blood doesn't come directly to the fetus. I think I want to convey this message again and again, and I hope the students understand. Maternal blood is not going to the baby directly. There is a barrier, and the barrier is comprised of 4 to 5 layers. And the layer is endothelium, either from the uterine artery and then it is the sensitive trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, there is the extramembranous mesoderm, and over this side, it will be the umbilical vein, endothelium of the umbilical vein. Then it comes to the fetus. This diagram. So from here to here, there is no direct blood connection. This is the barrier. And I think I must have written somewhere, yes, placenta and the barrier over here. So remember this slide. Let's do it now very quickly. So if you look at this structure, which is very similar to what I have drawn earlier, this structure, you like this structure more, but I just made the point over here. If you look at this structure, those barriers are very apparent to you. You can see some blood vessels are coming. This should be endothelium of either the umbilical artery or the vein. Umbilical vein, if it is taking the nutrition going towards the baby, but it will be red color because it's carrying the oxygen. And if you see carefully, there is the extramembranous mesoderm is there. Then you have this cytotrophoblast, sensitive trophoblast, and over here will be the blood or the blood vessels of the mother. So this is the barrier we are talking about. This is the barrier. It's very nicely drawn over here. Tertiary villi make contact with the capillaries in mesoderm or nucleus. This is not so important. Okay. So what is a placental barrier? In order to understand this concept, you must know how is the placenta developed. It is developed in two places, two ways. Just like my diagram, this is the fetal part, this is the maternal part. Together is the placenta, where the exchange is happening. The maternal part we call decidua basalis, most common decidua basalis. Maternal part we often call decidua basalis. The detailing you learn that in the year 4, when you go, I'll come back again to you for year 4 when I just give you an overview. I'll say that this is when you deliver a baby, then you'll understand more how the placenta looks like. Okay? In the clerkship phase. So in the beginning of the 4th month, you can see the placenta is not fully developed, but it is getting into the shape. Maternal part, fetal part. Fetal part is the chorion. Maternal part is the endometrium, we call decidua basalis. Decidua basalis. There are 3 different decidua is there, but most important part is the decidua basalis, which contribute to the formation of the placenta. Maternal, fetal. Clear? So that's the diagram I wanted to make it. Again, if you look at when the embryo is implanted, slowly the trophoblast is going towards the endometrium. These are all endometria. The placenta is formed only at one place. At one place. And this little space is called lacunae, where the maternal blood is coming. From the capillary, then it discharges the blood full of oxygen or nutrition. That will be perfused, that will be coming to the embryonic blood through the umbilical artery or the umbilical vein. Actually, it is the umbilical vein which takes the nutrition and the oxygen. And then it comes over here, metabolized, and goes back again, which is called umbilical artery, but it's a deoxygenated blood, which is there. And then the 4 layers are there, back to the lacunae, and then back to the uterine vein, and back to the mother. This is a more sophisticated picture. And you'll see that, there are 2 parts. Placenta, one is the maternal part. This is the maternal part. This is the fetal part. How do I know it is the fetal part? We ask in the exam. Fetal part will always have the umbilical cord. The maternal part should not have the umbilical cord. So if you take the placenta and you see which part is the maternal, I have a nice picture to show you that. The maternal part is very rough. because it's the muscle, endometrium. Kind of muscles are over there. Like it's a very solid structure over there. Okay? Very rough part. Often we call cotyledon. But the very smooth part is the fetal part. This is chorionic membrane is covering it, so it's very smooth and contains the umbilical vessels. This is not a good, I mean, you can see from your, I never realized that it would be so difficult for you to read it, but you know, if you look at the computer, you can see the endothelium of the maternal blood vessels. That's what I said. The basement membrane, syncytioblast, cytotrophoblast, connective tissue, and extraembryonic mesoderm, and the endothelium of the fetal blood. So this is exactly I said 10 times that what are the 4 or 5 layers of the placental barrier. You can see in your computer. Now this is exactly what I wanted to show you, that when the baby comes out, you can deliver the baby and then you say, well, my job is finished. You say, well, my job is finished, I go for coffee. Baby has come out, baby is crying. You cannot go out unless the placenta is delivered. If the placenta is not delivered, it takes another 15 minutes to take the placenta out. If the little bit of placenta is there, then there will be profuse bleeding. Because when the baby comes out, when the placenta comes out, uterus contracts. Remember, the many blood vessels are there. So in order to avoid the bleeding, then uterus contracts. Think about it. If I put something over here, my contraction is not that strong. If I take this out, then the contraction is much more acute, more visible, more stronger, or stronger. You understand what I'm saying? So if the placenta, little bit of placenta is there, then the contraction of the uterus is not very strong. There will be profuse bleeding. So you have to see the whole placenta has come out. You have to put in a petri dish. The whole placenta should be there, and the obstetrician, gynecologist will look at it carefully that whether or not the whole placenta has come out. So there is a lot of responsibility. Baby is delivered, but for mother, it's very important to also understand the mother can have profuse bleeding and she may die of the profuse bleeding if the placenta is not coming out in full. So how to do that? You put it in the, and this is a complete picture. If the little bit is left, then the uterus cannot contract. See, the uterus is contracting more if there is nothing. If there is something, it will be weak contraction, more bleeding. So the people will understand there must be something there, and they do the evacuation in a very nice way. This is the other side, maternal side. See how rough it is? So it is two sides. This is called vesicular basalis, and this little bit part is called cotyledon. I'm sure cotyledon, you have heard the name earlier in the biology class. Cotyledon, you remember cotyledon? So these are the small part, and many parts bring the maternal side. It's very rough part of the placenta. The placenta has two parts: maternal part coming from the endometrium, and the other part, which is coming from the fetus, is basically smooth, and then the umbilical cord is attached over there. This is again showing in the fetal surface how smooth it is. Very soon you'll realize that we have two arteries and one vein. Umbilical vein is 1, 2 umbilical artery. That is more detailed. We talk about that later, but that's not important. Umbilical artery is always taking the oxygenated blood. But the umbilical vein is always taking the oxygenated blood. The umbilical artery, on the other hand, is the deoxygenated blood we refer to. There are two of those. So the baby is born, then you have to clamp over here, and the clamp on the other side and cut in between. Don't cut over here, then there will be profuse bleeding. You cut on the placental side, you cut on the umbilicus. You clamp, not cut, clamp, and cut in between. That's what it's showing. The baby is born. And there's delivery. And this is exactly what I'm saying. The baby is not there anymore. Baby has come out, but you cannot go for coffee break. Well, I'm okay. What about placenta? None of my business. Baby has come out. You cannot. Just wait another 15 minutes for coffee break. So you have to pull a little bit of the umbilical cord because you already cut it over here. Baby is born, so you already cut. So pull it a little bit, and the whole placenta comes out. It occupies almost 30% of the uterine wall. It is situated normally in the upper uterine segment, the posterior wall. It's too detailed of this, you can read it. Smooth, covered by chorionic plate, which is covered by amniotic membrane, chorionic vessel, etc., is present. So this is, one more time, is emphasizing it. Decitua basalis is the maternal side of the placenta. This is the embryo, and the placenta is over here. This I often say, very important, underline 10 times, I'll be asking in the exam. This is very common, not uncommon situation. High diabetes from mole. What happens is that if the syncytial trophoblast is growing so much, syncytial trophoblast grows a lot. But if it is growing too much, it's almost like a cancerous. It will cover the embryo will die, and it's full of mole. Mole means, small projection, hyalitiform mole, hyalitiform cyst, and it contains some fluid over there, the cystic swelling. Resemble bunch of grapes. I have a picture to show you that. Produce excessive HCG because it is HCG is coming from syncytial trophoblast. So if the syncytial trophoblast is too much, is a problem. I told you also if the HCG is less, that will be coming for your exam too. And what is the situation? Ectopic pregnancy, very good. Because the pregnancy is within the fallopian tube, not much space, syncytial trophoblast is not growing, HCG is less. So when a woman comes to your clinic, you have some responsibilities. You cannot just say, congratulations, you are pregnant. You have to know whether the HCG level is correct. There is a range. If it is too low, you are worried. You should please visit me within 2 days. I would like to measure the HCG level again. If there is a problem, come back to us, because you will be doing an ultrasound to make sure the pregnancy is not happening in the fallopian tube. Very common. Very common. It can happen. And if you allow the pregnancy to continue in the fallopian tube, then fallopian tube will burst. There is a narrow space. And if it bursts, it will be peritonitis. Mother may die. So you have to know you're an Alpha student, Alpha graduate. You know that is not to say that please go home without testing properly, without understanding the HCG level is correct or not. If it is too much, you should then please come back again. I would like to do ultrasound to see whether you have high diabetes from mole, and then you explain that when the baby is covered with too much of syncytial trophoblast, there is also a problematic. This is what it looks like. I get a picture. No, that's the picture I have. Okay. So it's a grape-like swelling. Can you see that grape-like swelling? There's no baby over there. Okay. Then it's also called the neoplasia, gastroenteritis trophoblastic neoplasia. It's too much in detail. I wrote it, but I'm not going to ask you in the exam. Neither I'm going to explain this. This is not for you today. You are yes, one student, just have the concept. But these are important, the function. They provide protection, nutrition, respiration, excretion, hormone production. I may ask you that you think about the protection, how the placenta is giving you protection or giving the baby a protection, placental barrier. That's what you want to say, right? Yes, placental barrier. So tonight is your night in terms of understanding the placental barrier. If you understand the placental barrier, then you can think about how the nutrition or oxygen coming from the maternal side to the baby. And when it is coming to the baby, it is going through the umbilical vein. It is oxygenated blood, but we call it a vein because it is going towards the heart of the baby. And you have to do it again and again. You say that, Dr. Paul, I don't understand anything. Whatever you are saying, I don't understand anything. Now, I cannot spend another 2 hours with you over here that anything going towards the heart, we call it is a vein. Anything going towards the heart. In this case, going towards the heart is the baby, so it will be umbilical vein. Anything going out of the heart is umbilical artery. It's called artery. So it will be carrying the deoxygenated blood. I'm talking about in strict sense in the embryo. Then you can see that, how detailing of this, these are physiology more towards this. You will learn that more in the endocrinology, not so important. Hormone HCG is very important. Other hormones are coming. This is the question we asked in the year 2 student. Exactly this question. What are the hormones coming out from the placenta? So do you think it is important for you? No, you just know a little bit that. I just put it over here. Put you like teratogens. Teratogens are important. Drugs, etc. Develop virus. Again, I put thalidomide. I already. What is the reason for not having a menstrual cycle in pregnancy? I think you should be doing that. You have done it a little bit from physiology point of view, or you'll be doing it again in the endocrine section next year. I'm not going to explain to you that right now. I hope you have understood the basic concept between this. It's very fascinating. And let me orient you one more time to give you a summary of that. I wanted to emphasize today placenta. By completing the placenta, I also completed the general embryology. You have a pretty good idea that what is happening in the embryo in terms of the ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, all coming from the epiblast. Then you know that what is the function of the hypoblast going through the extraembryonic membrane. Then the extraembryonic coelom, which is different from intraembryonic coelom. Then there is folding happening, and therefore there are many things attached to this. Then I talked about you also the placenta, that's today. And through this resource session, I have already completed the basic or the general embryology. The next time I come, it will be systemic, no more basic embryology. Systemic embryology means I'll be talking about the limb development. Because this is the musculoskeletal system. I have not spoken anything about the musculoskeletal system, but in order to understand musculoskeletal system, you needed this prior knowledge. You had week 1 and 2 in the foundation block, but that embryology was the baby embryology. But now you are getting serious. You understand, you should be enjoying it more. I'm sure that you are enjoying, not because of me, but because of the content that you are exposed to. Is that okay? So, embryology is a story. I think you can make your own story if you keep on writing it. That this is the story. It started with the zygote, the morula, implantation. Then week 1, week 2, there are 2 layers. Week 3 will be 3 layers. And then what is the, the function of primitive state, primitive peak, etc. How the 3 layers are formed. And then you should know the derivatives of those 3 layers. Like, one of the questions is the ulnar nerve. Ulnar nerve comes from the neural tube. It's because the spinal cord is coming from the spinal cord. No question about that. All the nerve, neural tube. If there are specialized cells, neural trace. Some students come to me and complain, what kind of question you have put over there? I said, this is a concept. You know, the mesoderm, for example, I said the paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, lateral mesoderm. We talk more about that in my next class, about the mesoderm, because the starting point of the system. Thank you very much.